Hi, good evening. Welcome to Barmy Army podcast number 26. Tonight, I'm joined by John and Jake. You all right, guys?
Hey guys, you okay?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Obviously,
Good.
a bit of surprising news there that we just got on Twitter.
Yeah. So before we begin tonight, talking about the game on Sunday from Birmingham, obviously it's been broken in the news today that this evening, that Katie Zellum has tested positive for COVID-19. So on behalf of the Barmy Army and other people out there, speedy recovery, Katie. Hope you get well soon. Anything to say on that, chaps?
No, we just wish her well, and hopefully she's back as soon as she feels fit, of course.
Yeah,
I agree.
Just do what you've got to do. Just stay at home and look after yourself.
Yeah, I completely agree. Evening, Ref. Evening, John. Hope you're both well. So tonight we're going to talk about the game on Sunday, the 5-2 win. It sounds comfortable. Jake, you were part of the watch along. It was far from comfortable for a while, and we'll get into that. John's just put a little message on. Yeah, get well, Katie. Stronger and fitter and stay safe. So yeah, we all agree with that. So let's start then with the beginning. There's lots of messages coming in from Katie. I'll put some up soon. Let's start with Sunday's game. Before the game, I know, Jake, you watched the Chelsea game with us on our live watch along. You were pretty confident that we would win against Birmingham. John, were you confident after the Chelsea draw that we would beat Birmingham?
Yeah, I think not only that Chelsea result, but also the buzz that we had around the new signings that week as well, and Birmingham obviously having a bit of a tough time in the last year or so. So yeah, you'd expect to win. Not necessarily in that particular, that way, but you'd expect to walk away with 3 points, definitely.
Yeah. So obviously there was 3 new signings that week, which we'll try and talk about a bit later on. I can only remember one of the names, Alicia Russo. The other 2, for some reason, I don't even know who they are. Just passes me by. So at 1:00 Sunday, the team news dropped, and there was probably a moment where a certain midfielder wasn't in the starting 11. So let's start with that bit first. Were either of you surprised that Hayley didn't start, Jake?
I really was, yes, because obviously she's going back to her old club, and she will have wanted to start. I'm sure she was our best player last season. A lot of us agree on that. And she did all right against Chelsea as well. So I think, it was a bit of a surprise, yeah. But I think it just shows that Katie is willing to rotate and drop the odd player here and there this season.
John, were you surprised she didn't start?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I never even give it a thought that they should be out, to be honest. But I think it was a very courageous and bold move from Casey, and I can see why she did it. You're against a weaker team. If you're going to leave out a CDM of that calibre, then I suppose you would do it against, like I said, the weaker teams. And the three midfielders that she did pick were all capable of winning that match. However, when she came on at half time, she did make a massive difference.
Yeah, my standpoint. I mean, people who have watched these podcasts before, they would know that some people have been critical of tactics. There's a lot of people out there in the social media world who are very critical of what Casey does. Last season there were games when people were saying you don't need to play both Hayley and Katie in the same team. You only need, for the so-called weaker teams, you don't need them both. You only need one of them. And when Casey does do that, when she does take one of them out, the stuff that's written on social media by people, it's just wrong. And I had Hayley in my starting league lineup, but we're playing Birmingham, and everyone has said it, and we don't need to play a defensive midfielder for a team against Birmingham, where Katie's more attacking. So I suppose my question is to both of you is, against the weaker teams, do we need to play Hayley and Katie, or was it a good attacking idea to play just Katie and let the defence do what they should do and defend? John?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what I said earlier, really, Hayley didn't need to play that game. And if ever you're going to rest Hayley, then these are the games that you need to rest her. If you have a look at the 2 goals that we conceded, there were defensive errors. It was nothing to do with Hayley's presence not being there, not in my opinion anyway. And going forward, you do need sometimes that extra creative person just to break the defence down, especially if you're expecting Birmingham City to sit back. And look, those 3 midfielders who started the game more than capable of winning that game. So Casey, in my opinion, didn't do anything wrong. She's tried something different. She's put out a starting lineup that should have been up at half time. It's down to the players not playing good enough at that point.
Before I come on to you, Jake, John has said he was shocked, thinks she should be the first name on the team sheet, unless, though, there was a slight injury, which is a possible. I know you are a massive Hayley fan because I've heard the stories about you at the Wales game, which we're not going to get into. We'll leave that between us. Was it a game where you think we needed Hayley to start?
Originally, when I saw the team sheet, I thought, yeah, we'll do all right. We've got some attacking players. Birmingham aren't the strongest, but you look what happens in the first half, and I think it just shows that maybe we do need Hayley in these games. We need someone to support the defence. And as good as Katie is a central midfielder, I think Hayley is the only player in the team that can nail that defensive midfield role. So I think we do need her, yeah.
Okay. Evening Nat, evening Gary, evening John, Neville, and evening Voyas. So the game kicks off with the team, and within 5 minutes, we go 1-up. It was a well-worked goal, and Jane Ross scores the opening goal. Jake, well, as long as we're off by 8 o'clock, we should be fine. So off you go.
Yeah, brilliant goal. The best goal I've ever seen. Okay, no. Yeah, it was a real relief to see Jane score. I mean, hopefully that gives her some confidence. So now if she does have a run of games in the team, which, it could happen. We don't know what Casey's got up her sleeve. But yeah, it was a very nice header. Didn't have a lot of power, but it was so accurate that, Hampton had no chance getting down there. So it was a great start to the game, just what you need. In a potential banana skin match, you could call it, and it really got going from there.
So there's comments obviously coming in all the time. I'll start with the refs. Well, Gary's asked, evening lads, with the next 3 games being winnable in the league, what sort of position will we be going to in the City and Arsenal games? As long as we've won the next 3, hopefully in a good run of form. That's for me where I think we'll be, guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think those three next games are, you have to go in there expecting a win in each game. It's not like last season where we was lacking in depth. We have got players now. If they're not in form, we can look at rotating them. So we have to go into that. I think it's Arsenal first. I think we have to go into that game with as many. Well, we're looking at about 13 points by then, roughly. So that will be fantastic. I'm not saying it's going to be that easy, but we have to at least aim for that, definitely.
John Fry said exactly the same as you. It's as if you were working together. He said 13 points. So also in the comments, refs put up, I don't mind Casey changing it up. We were far too predictable last season. Same 11 week in, week out. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sorry, very quick. That's what people were complaining about last year, about her being too predictable. And then all of a sudden, just changed it up, playing Tooney instead of Jackie and Jane Ross instead of maybe anybody else, LJ when she's fit or whoever. And there was suddenly she changes it up, still plays 11 fantastic players, and there's still someone moaning about it. That's just the way I guess that's just the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Jake, for me, it's kind of Casey's now got this squad of players. She doesn't start Hayley, yet she can start Jackie Gronin. I mean, it's one of those where you must look at the. I know Chelsea have got this astronomical, this brilliant bench, but our bench isn't going to be too far behind it. Hayley doesn't start. You've got Jackie on the bench, or if Honor doesn't start, you've got Lotta. You've got these, and if Jane or doesn't start, you've got Alicia Russo, Jess Sigsworth. You've got all these brilliant players. So, with what Ian said, is this now a thing where we're not going to try and be as predictable as we were last season?
I certainly think so. I was just in the first two games. Casey's dropped. Well, first it was Jackie, and it was Hayley. She's got the midfielders and she's using them. And obviously we've still got Lucy to come in as well. So there's so much competition in that midfield places. And let's not forget, I think the injuries that we started the season with have sort of forced Casey into a bit of rotation themselves. So I think that's good in one sense. The fact that we've got not the whole team's fit at the moment, but as those injured players come back in, your Jess Sigsworth, your Varna Fuso, Lucy of course, and Martha when she eventually gets out of that boot. I think I think she's gonna have such a great squad to choose from, and they'll be fired up having not played this season. Those who've been sidelined.
John Fry in the comments, he's made a point of, I think the way we play, we need a central defensive midfielder to play the ball out of defence, and Hayley's the only one we have. I would agree with that in part. When we do play that way, when we play a certain way, we do need Hayley. Shane has put up 5 minutes too long, only took us 17 seconds in December. And there's a question here, Jake, for you from Deborah. How many more does Jake expect Jane will get this season?
Ooh.
While I give you a little bit of thinking time, ref's answered it for you, and he's put that.
That's what he wishes.
And then Deborah's put that. And then Ian's answered with that. And he then admits, I want Jane to score 3, just not all in the same game.
Fair enough.
All right, fair enough. And then there's a lot going on. John Fry, though, does say something along the lines of what you both said. When we have our full squad back, it's going to be frightening when all fit. But, for the likes that we can have the likes of, a game where Tobin Heath and Kristen Press won't play and they'll be sat on the bench. I mean, that's something to look at. So we started off well, and the people in the watch along were thinking, "Wow, 1-0 up, 5 minutes," rubbing of the hands, and then it kind of went downhill a bit. In the 14th minute, Birmingham scored. The build-up was, I think, Molly Green was involved, obviously from Birmingham side, and the ball pinged about a bit. Were we just at that point too busy thinking about attacking going forward than we were defensively, Jake?
I just think it was one of those lapses in concentration where Katie and Millie both got out muscled, if I remember correctly. And look, they shouldn't happen, but these things do sometimes happen when you're trying to defend against one of those teams that you think don't have much of a threat from attack. Because at the end of the day, Birmingham do have strikers, and if you do give them the ball, they will score. And obviously, they hit us with that equaliser. So it was, Casey, I'm sure she wasn't happy from the sidelines. I know there was a lot of shouting going on in that first half. But it's just one of those things that sometimes happens. But, Millie and Katie will be, disappointed that they were just pushed off the ball so easily. Yeah.
And then 10, 12 minutes later, there's an own goal from Abby McManus. Now, there's a lot of people out in the social media world who have been critical of Abby Mack. We obviously watched the game, and it's one of those where you either try and clear it or they score a goal. So I don't actually think Abby Mack necessarily was doing anything wrong. She was trying to clear it. It's one of those freak things. John?
Yeah, you just said it there. I mean, if that happened 100 times, that would probably end up in the back of the rail net once. It's just one of those things. I do think on both goals, we needed to be a bit more alert, a bit more stronger. Jake said muscled on the first one, absolutely, yeah. And then obviously there's calls for maybe Amy coming in to replace Abby as well. I don't think there's any problem with rotating the centre backs. If someone doesn't feel that confident or if they're not in form, we have got 3 centre backs now. Now that Amy's not playing as a fullback, there's no harm in Casey just swapping it around a little bit. But there's no need to obviously rush into that just yet. But she needs to know, when she's in the training ground, if that's affecting Abby or if Millie's low on confidence as well, then there's no need to play them anymore. We have got a very good defender in Amy to come in.
I mean, there's obviously people talking about it in the comments. Shane has said Abby should have gone with the head. No need to go with the foot to clear that. And John Fry has said, as a fellow defender, see Abby type goal scored on a regular basis. It's one of those, like you said, John. You either 9 times out of 10 you clear it, or it goes out for a corner and it's done. But the one time, it just goes in. Then, another 10 minutes later, everything seems to be happening in this game in 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, there's a foul on the corner of the box, on the outside of the box, and we get awarded a free kick. Katie Zellerman and Jackie Gronan were stood over it. Were either of you in doubt who was taking that, or was there a part of you thinking, Jackie might take this one? Jake, you're shaking your head. So
never. Look, Katie is the set piece specialist. She's one of the best in the league at taking free kicks. It's always got to be Katie for me.
John, were you surprised, or was it, like Jake said, just a no-brainer?
Yeah, you knew exactly who was going to take it, where the ball was going to go, and I felt confident that was going to be a goal. And even if goalkeepers know where that ball's going to go, unless if you're standing 2 yards over, leaving the other side open, I can see Katie scoring a lot more of those this season. I really can.
What I liked about that free kick was there wasn't a lot of pace on the ball. It was just it wasn't hit hard. It wasn't hit with a lot of bend on it. It was just hit, and the goalkeeper just. I don't think the goalkeeper would have saved it if she would have done that 5 out of 5 times with the same amount. I thought it was a really nice hit free kick, and actually I think we needed. Obviously, once we got that free kick back, we came back into the game. We were more confident, and I think Jake, I think you were saying it during the watch along that for our build up play wasn't the way, it wasn't crisp. It wasn't to the point. There was a lot of misplaced passes in that first half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you worried about that at any point, about the number of misplaced passes that were being made in the first half?
I just put it down to I don't want to say nerves, but it's clearly weren't gelling in that first half. And I know we went in level at the break, but I think we were quite lucky in some ways to go in level because it's just one of those halves where nothing seemed to come together for United. Look, these halves happen. Of course, we made up for it in the second half, but it's one of those when you think, it's Birmingham, we should be winning. The doubt starts to creep in, if you know what I mean. When you're being held, and obviously when you're going at the break level, it's sort of like, we've got a job to do here. Luckily, obviously, Casey got into them at half time.
One of the comments that I'm looking at, and I will put up in a second, is people are talking about the squad in the comments, and they're saying we've got this. I'm going to use the word plethora of attacking players going for us. But Gary says the one part of the team that we might struggle with is the centre backs. If if Abby, Millie, or Amy get an injury, then I know there's the development squad to bring in, but it's one part of the squad actually we don't have a lot of cover for. And I'm going to go on, John.
No, I was just going to say, if you try and pick your starting 11, you've got, every position on the pitch, you've got probably 2 players that could potentially play there. Whereas a centre back and maybe like the right back position, those 2 areas there, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we possibly haven't got 2 players that can play in each of those roles. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with that comment.
Yeah, Shane said about the first goal, we panicked, and I think you said that, Jake. We panicked in that first goal. Millie should have stuck in the line instead of rushing out, because you were. I think from when that goal went in, Jake, if memory serves me correctly, you were saying we need Hayley on. We need Hayley on to calm everyone down.
Yeah, straight from that goal. Yeah, early on I was looking for it.
John Fry in the comments, he said, I think Abby was injured at the time of the second goal. I mean, I didn't see anything. I can't remember anything, so possibly. And John's also said, talking about centre-backs, he's been saying that we need one more. When we were talking about cover for centre-backs, I was going to speak to Jake about it, because I know I've got to know Jake pretty well over these last 26 weeks by doing the socials and watch-alongs. And I knew Jake, if I'd have asked him about it, he would have said this.
Yes. And that's... Sorry, Mark.
No, thank you, Namrata, for that. So if we do get an injury, you're quite confident Hayley could just slip into centre-back and we'll be all right?
Right, well, here's the problem, right? Obviously, Namrata's made a great point. Yes, she does play for Wales. But look who she's got in front of her. She plays behind Sophie Ingle, who is also a world-class defensive midfielder. Now, we don't have that United. We don't have another Hayley Ladd level, Sophie Ingle level, something like that, defensive midfielder who can do that job. So that's my issue. Yeah, she's a great defender. I mean, when I watched her at Birmingham, she plays centre-back quite often as well. But... put Hayley in centre back. Yes, she'll do a job. Who's doing Hayley's job? It's one of those.
I'm glad you've asked that question, John. Do you want to answer it?
Someone called Lucy, maybe, possibly. Look, Lucy, Katie. It's a way to get them all on the pitch, isn't it? So it's a last resort, and hopefully Hayley never needs to play centre back. But hopefully, as long as it's not against like a City, Chelsea, or Arsenal, then it's possibly doable, isn't it?
We've got a couple more people who've just joined us. Hi, Finn. Hi, Akil. Finn is joining us all the way from Morocco. So thank you for joining us. So after the goal, after Katie equalises to make it 2-2, half-time whistle. And obviously the people in the watch-along, someone said it, and I can't remember who, Jake, maybe you remember. Someone said, I won't be surprised if Casey made 3 substitutions at half-time.
I can't remember who said it.
I can't remember myself.
No.
So I think most of us just laughed it off and went, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll see." And then, lo and behold, she makes 3 subs at half-time. She takes off the 2 goal scorers, and she takes off Abby McManus. Now, going back on the Abby McManus one, that kind of might make sense if she was injured, as John Fry said she was. Were you surprised she took off Zelly and Jane, John?
Jane, probably not. Jane's had a lot of game time anyway, so there's no harm in giving the debut to do so. Zellem, yeah, just purely because she's the captain, but I can see why there needed to be a change in the midfield. So, I guess yes and no, really, but I probably wouldn't have predicted that one. And it's always a bold move to take off a centre-back, isn't it? Especially after they've made a mistake as such. So I would have probably called one of them, but all 3, that's a bold statement there.
Jake, obviously I know you're going to say you were shocked for one of them going off, so that won't be a surprise. Were you shocked at 3 subs?
Yes, I was expecting 2 maybe, but 3, it's a lot to change, ahead of a whole half of football. But yeah, Casey obviously saw we needed a change, but I think I'm most surprised that Katie got took off because she didn't have the best half, but she scored the free kick, and who's to say she wouldn't go and do more in the second half? But look, I'm not complaining. It worked.
Yeah, I stand corrected by Stato. Oh no, wrong one. Sorry. All 3 goal scorers went off. Sorry, Shane. Right. So she takes off Jane, Zelly, and Abby Mack. She brings on Alessia Russo for a debut, Hayley Ladd for Zelly, and Amy Turner. Amy Turner, for me, I think she should start. I know Jake and I, we talk about this quite a bit. Amy Turner, for me, I would prefer Amy to start with Millie. I know when Jake picked his starting 11 for his first game, I think you had Amy Millie at centre back. Yeah, Jake?
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's no surprises there. Then Alessia Russo comes on, and within a couple of minutes, she's already got a first assist for Tooney. So, how impressed were you with the 45 minutes of Alessia Russo, Jake?
It's exciting, isn't it? I mean, obviously she didn't get on the score sheet, but you could see the creative play. She was making those runs. She was making some key passes. Obviously got the assist as well. I think she got the assist later on for Kirsty as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, she did the last goal,
yeah. So, look, it just shows that I expect a fair few goals from Alessia Russo. What I've seen from her is very exciting. Obviously, she's very... she's very young. She's got a career ahead of her, and I think we've made the signing at the right time. But apart from the goals, she showed that she can become. She doesn't have to always be the producer. She can always be, the person who puts it on a plate for someone else. And I think that's what you need in a striker: someone who can do both, not just someone who's there to score, but who can be part of the team. If you know what I mean, make the runs down the wing, play in behind someone else. She's a very adaptable player from what I saw in that half.
Yeah. Just before I come to you, John, Shane said 3 subs at halftime was ballsy, but in that game necessary. Help that we can now make 5 subs in a game, seeing a slightly more no-nonsense approach from KC in these first 2 games. John elaborates a bit more on the Abby thing. He said Abby kept stretching her right leg for a long time in the game. I have got a few stats about the game on Sunday. So Katie Zellum, she completed 25 out of 31 passes. Hayley Ladd, who had 45 minutes, Katie had 45 minutes, she completed 17 of 23. Now, at a percentage rate, you're looking at 80% for Zelly, 74% for Hayley. But the game was completely different. And I know people rely on the stats and all those things, but I can't remember if John or Jake said it, Hayley came on and she played her game and we kept possession. So can you read anything into the? Do you read anything into the stats, or is it just people just with numbers querying? It's numbers.
Me personally, I always like to take note of the stats, but I think results speak for themselves. If it's a striker and they've scored, say, 30 goals in a season or 20 goals in a WSL season, then obviously that speaks volumes, doesn't it, compared to someone who's only scored 5. But I think passing stats are very deceiving. Those passing stats could be passing backwards, passing sidewards or whatever. If they're like forward passes or key passes, those are the ones that you need to really look out for. Look, it's always interesting and exciting to read stats. I like to read them as well, but I wouldn't go necessarily picking a starting 11 on who's made the most passes in a game. I think there's a lot to do with chemistry as well. Hayley Ladd came on, and we used to seeing Hayley Ladd in that position. Without Hayley, maybe the other 2 midfielders didn't know their role as much as when Hayley's on the pitch. So there's so much to look at there.
Yeah. A couple of comments that have come in. Jason has said, Amy tees her up at the back every time. And Voyas has said, Leslie's hold-up play was really good. And yeah, I would agree with that. So talking of shooting stats, because this will be one for Jake. Jane had 2 shots on goal, 1 on target, which is 50%. That's quite good. Russo had 4 shots, 2 on target. 50% again. So your 2 strikers were getting on stuff on target, whereas Kirsty Hansen and Ella Toon, Kirsty had 4 on target of 5, and Ella had 3 on target of 6. So again, 50%. Ella Toon scores, and then it kind of became a Jackie Gronin kind of show for a while, because she was who did you, Jake? I know you did the fan cams after it. Who was your player of the match?
It was, I think I said Jackie, yeah.
Because I don't understand why people went for Tooney and Kirsty Hansen, but I watched the game again and I thought Jackie was immense. I mean, she's playing. I think the pressure's off her now, personally, with the signings of Tobin and Kristen. So I mean, I think it was one of the goals where Jackie got into the box and she kind of dribbled a couple of players and she passed the ball along. How impressed were you, John, with Jackie's performance on Sunday?
Yeah, it's all coming together. 2 assists in 2 games, played on the right and the left. With those assists, one coming from the right, one coming from the left. Look, we all know that I'm a Jackie fan anyway, but it looks like now that she's got everything that she's trying is actually coming off at the moment. Her dribbling is actually getting past the defenders. She's looking up when she's crossing and finding Kirsty Hansen on Sunday. I was very impressed. I did choose Kirsty Hansen as my player of the match, but that's nothing against Tooney or Jackie. I just think there was that game. I thought Kirsty just played immense.
Yeah, I mean, on Sunday there was, I think Shane said it on the watch along. There was only a few players that you could probably say were worthy of the player of the match. Jackie was definitely one. Tooney was one, and Kirsty Hansen. Actually, as a notable mention, I thought Leslie Russo as well. Rob, thanks for joining us. Rob said Russo will get double figures this season. I think we need a striker to be getting double figures. Do you both agree on that?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Gary says passing stats are irrelevant, especially when Katie plays further forward and plays more passes that would get intercepted than Hayley would in her position. I think that's something that you were kind of talking about, John. Namrata, she says Rosti's shots are closer to the goal in the box, while Russo's were all long ranged. John Fry said Jackie seems to be playing with a bit more freedom. I would agree, and he says he picked Tooney as his player of the match. When I'll give you some thinking time for this one. When everyone is fit and everyone's available, John's already shaking his head, so he already knows where I'm going with it. And don't worry, Jake, you've been asked it a million times as well. When everyone's fit and available, who doesn't play? Because you would imagine, and obviously we're not managers, but you would imagine the likes of Tobin and Kristen just walk into the team. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So who's not playing then? Because for me, I'll say this. I think Kirsty Hansen has made that right wing position her own for now. Jake, yeah?
Yeah, I think it'd be wrong to drop her after the 2 games that she's had, because even though she came off injured against Chelsea, she did a good job then, and Sunday's performance was amazing.
So for the next game against Brighton, I think Kirsty Hansen will start, personally.
I hope.
I'm not too sure. I really hope she does, but it's a whole thing. Will Katie, throw Tobin in instead, or I'm hoping that and I hate to say this, but I'm hoping Leah gets dropped to the bench and Tobin goes on the left wing. But we'll have to see, won't we?
What I love about this podcast is that it's so interactive. And just so I know, have you got secret messages going on with Deborah? Because that's what she put on exactly the same time as you. Namrata kind of says the same as me and John. Hansen starts the next game. I would agree. And then surely, Gary says surely if LJ's fit, she has to play. And we've not. The thing is now we've not even talked about LJ yet. She's not anywhere near this conversation yet. So now there's an argument going on. Leave Leah alone. She starts according to ref. Rob says Preston Heath on the bench for Brighton and come on at half time, which is something that I would probably expect. So let's get back to the game, because that's what we're kind of talking about. So Tooney scores in the 47th minute. A good goal. She gets, in the end, I think she gets clipped by either the defender or the goalkeeper. And then Kirsty Hansen kind of takes over a bit and makes it her game. How impressed were you both with Kirsty Hansen?
Yeah.
Whoever.
I'll go because I said that she was my player of the match. So I just think that she's really strong on the ball. Since we saw her from the first season, she just keeps getting stronger and stronger and better. She's gaining confidence. She's tracking the defenders down and the goalkeepers to win the ball back on that high press. She's won the ball by doing that as well. She's putting in good crosses. She's scoring. One of the things that we could be critical of with Hansen is not getting on the score sheet. You can't say that this season already. I think she deserves to keep that spot. I really do.
Jake?
I think I mentioned it before, saying that each season she's getting better. Obviously, since she finished her studies, last season we saw a new side to her. And on Sunday, 2 goals and 1 assist, if I'm correct. That's amazing. Especially for a winger who's not always centre of the goal in goal scoring positions. She gets into the positions. She does a job on the wing. And I think sometimes Kirsty is a bit of an unsung hero. We don't sort of focus on her when we see her making all these special runs and taking on players and sometimes beating them, because we've got our eyes on the big names. Alessia's debut, we were all watching her. We were watching Jackie because she was making some real magic, some wizardry, you could say, on the wings. But I think Kirsty's one that you definitely have to keep an eye on during the game, because she really does make a massive impact.
Going back to the comments, Namrata says Leah won't be dropped. John Fry says his team is Mary, Honor, Amy, Millie, Lotta, Hayley, Jackie, Ella, Kirsty, Leah, and Russo. And then there's a bit of talking about the game, about Voyas. Tooney's goal had a great build-up, and I think we've said that our build-up play in the second half was a lot better. Would you say that's because of the subs or the fact that we went in on an even keel, Jake?
I think we came out for the second half knowing that we needed to do something, that we needed to change it up and just focus more going forward. But look, I agree with that. I'd go as far as saying that's one of the best goals we've scored, just because I want everyone to go and watch that back. It was amazing. Jackie's long ball out wide, trademark Jackie long ball into Kirsty, into the middle, and Tooney's there she took it in one touch. Tooney, it was just good connection into the corner. It was just a good goal all around, and it was definitely the best we scored on Sunday. Yeah,
Shane said it, Jake. Jackie's pass to Hansen was sublime. It was brilliant. Namrata, she said, same team as last match. Ladon for Zelly and Russo for Ross. Nat said Leah to be dropped before Kirsty.
This is quite a debate going on, isn't it?
It is quite a debate. So who wants to start this one? Go on, John.
I was just going to say it's great down there because last Christmas time when Leah and Kirsty was both injured, we was you could see a massive difference. Whereas now, all of a sudden, we're actually saying, I don't mind dropping Leah for a little bit and put Tobin Heath in. That's the strength of all of a sudden that we've got now. And it's great, isn't it, being a United supporter now? It doesn't matter what starting level we put out. We know that there's a debate to have. The players who have been left out could potentially start. So it just shows how strong that we've got.
I mean, when you consider, that sentence you just said, John, when you consider we could drop Leah for a game and play Tobin Heath, it is just one of those sentences that you go, wow. Actually, it's one of those moments, and I know the three of us, we would all like to be at LSV for the next game, and we're still waiting to find out, and if they're going to allow crowds in under the current circumstances. But I mean, the fact that Tobin Heath or Kristen Prest will be playing for the team that we love, it's amazing. Deborah's going on to the Kirsty thing, the Leah thing. She said last season's performances count for nothing. You prove yourself for every match or you get dropped. Jake, all this talk about Leah, and there is a lot of it. It's all on social media. Do you think it's justified, or is it? It's the second game of the season, and it's a weird, and it's a weird year. Let's put it that way. Are you surprised how quickly fans have turned? I'm not going to say turned, have been critical, or is it just it's the second game? We've not got going yet.
Yeah. Now, I think the main thing here is, you've got Tobin Heath coming in. And had we not had her, would we be talking about dropping Leah? No, absolutely not. I think it's just the excitement and the willingness of some people just to get Tobin playing. Look, we can only put 11 girls on the pitch. One of them is going to have to drop out. So I think Leah is the obvious substitution for Tobin at the moment. And it's just one of those, we don't want to see Leah get dropped. We don't want to see anyone get dropped. The girls have worked really well to get 4 points out of the first 2 games. But it's going to have to happen, as those two come in and, the others come back from injuries. And there is going to be more rotation.
Voyas in the comments has said, if Honor is playing on the left, I would prefer a right-footed winger instead of Leah. Interesting. So you could play Kirsty potentially there and match up foot to foot. Namrata, Honor's playing on the left because she drifts inside and Leah's supposed to be wide and putting the crosses. Let's have a quick chat about Honor Batcher. I hope I've said that right. I'll be told if I haven't. How impressed have you both been with her? John?
Yeah, extremely impressed. It's the fact that she's only just recently moved to the country and come to a higher league, a higher standard of league, and the Chelsea game, our player of the match. And even I know that we mentioned Jackie, Tooney, and Hanson because they created the goals, but I think I tweeted out that Honor spent more time up front than than as a defender in that game. She makes driving runs, not just down the wing, but as someone just mentioned there, she does come inside. If the space to run into, she runs into it, and that's what we, that's what we always want from our fullbacks. And maybe that's what Casey was hoping Lotta would do last season, but Honor's come in and really took to it really quickly, and she deserves every bit of praise that she's getting at the moment. And
she's not the only one getting praise. I got nice pronunciation. Get me? Jake, how impressed have you been with Honor? Because obviously we've watched the games together via Zoom and all these things. How impressed have you been?
Yeah, massively. Now, I thought she was going to be a bit like Lotta last season in the fact that, she's very young, she doesn't have that much experience, she was going to come to a new country, and it would take her ages to fit in. But she's taken to it like a duck to water. She's been amazing. Against Chelsea, she bossed that wing, and she just did the same against Birmingham. Look, this girl is very talented, you can see that, and I think she's going to become something very special. A regular in the Spain team, a regular in the United team. I hope we keep her for years to come, because if that's how good she is in her first 2 games, surely it can only get better.
John has said our best defender at the moment, and Deborah agrees with you, Jake, where if not for Tobin, then there's no discussion of Hanson or Galton being dropped. And so there was one other sub, and someone's asking a question in the comments, so we'll come to it. There was one other sub. Lotta comes on for Kirsty Smith, and the question is, who do you think is better, Lotta or Kirsty? Because they want to see Honor at right back. I think actually, if I'm right, we've got one from each camp, because I know, Jake, you do like Kirsty Smith, and John, I think you've always spoken pretty highly of Lotta. So you two can discuss it and let me know. For me, I don't think we've seen the best of Lotta yet. I like Kirsty. I think she's the fact she can play both sides, and I think Jake and you and I have always been in complete agreement about this. Where the running of last season, January to February, Kirsty was one of our better players. But as John and I have also said, at Everton, Lotta was one of our better players. They were both one of our better players. So who do you prefer at left back? Is it going to be Kirsty or Lotta? John?
If it's left back, then I probably would play Lotta. But I don't want to change the races at the moment, to be honest. I don't think we've got an issue with our fullbacks. I think Kirsty's done really well. I think Lotta will get a chance, even if it's not potentially, this season. I'm hoping that she'll be with the club a long time. And Kirsty won't play every game. So I think there's plenty of time for Lotta to come in. And I know Honor needs to play on the right, but I don't know if she does necessarily need to be rushed into that position, because we've seen how good she's been where she is at the moment. So for me, no change just yet, but in the hope that Lotta can keep on progressing and get into the team eventually.
Before we come on to the Kirsty Smith camp, Debs has put in, Honor's been a revelation. Fingers crossed it continues. Ellen has just gone. Honor. John is in the Lotta camp. Deborah, Lotta needs to convince, not yet overly impressed. Lotta got bullied physically against Chelsea when she replaced Honor. And Shane very eloquently put Kirsty's housery, hashtag thanks for coming. Jake, Kirsty Smith.
Yeah, Kirsty's had a lot more time in the team than Lotta. I think that's her biggest advantage between the two. Yeah, look, me and you we know how much I love Kirsty. Yeah, I think she's an underrated player at times. I think she's not our best defender, but she's not our worst. I think she can do a job for us. She doesn't always go forward, but when she does, she looks very confident. Obviously, she scored for us as well. I think it was in that Leicester game, so she does have an eye for goal, albeit a very rare one, you could say. But here's the thing about all of our fullbacks: they can play either side. Every single one of them. So you can talk about moving Honor to the right back. You can talk about moving Kirsty to the left back. You can talk about Lotta on the left. I think the only one we've not seen is Lotta on the right. I think that's the only thing we've not seen. So we've also got Martha. Let's not forget her. She can play either side if needed. But yeah, I think that's the best thing about our fullbacks. Because they're so interchangeable, it sort of increases their chances of playing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Rather than just being stuck to one position.
I think if I had to choose a starting, if they're gonna play, excuse me 1 minute.
He's not wrong.
No, actually, and we're not going to call it that horrible word that Shane used. We're going to call it Smithhousery instead.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, in fact, that's Junior Shane. I know there's people out in the social media world who want to see Honor play in what people are saying is her natural position of right back. But right now, I wouldn't swap them. I wouldn't move her to right back. I'd leave her at left back because it looks promising at the left back for me. So, with that being said, we won the game 5-2. During the first half, the people who were in the watch along, there was a lot of humming and hawing about where we're going. But in the end, it was a 5-2. I think it was a deserved win. But were either of you in doubt about the scoreline in the end? Was it a deserved scoreline, or should it have been more?
I think it was pretty fair, to be honest. I mean, we made 2 defensive lapses, and so we deserved to concede those 2 goals. Obviously, Casey had words with him at half time. I know that there was maybe 1 or 2 shots from Birmingham in the second half, but you know, it takes you know, a good team to score like 4 out of 4 chances. So I think they was deserving of their 2 goals, and I think our 5 goals. You know, I think our fitness played a good part in that. I think we was a lot fitter than Birmingham. I think we just outrun them, and everything came off in that second half the way it should have done.
I suppose one of the talking points, things we haven't talked about in that game, and we'll give it a quick couple of minutes, is Molly Green. Obviously started for Birmingham. She left the club. She left the club on the Monday. She played on Sunday. But she was getting, you know, there was no love lost between her and Tooney, who we know are great mates. There was a fair few tackles flying in, and at the end they hugged and kissed and made up. But was Molly Green leaving probably inevitable in a way for you? Jake, you're nodding, so.
Yeah, it was. Look, I was always a big fan of Molly, and I think, you know, just the way last season went, I hate to say it, but you could see by December that, you know, her time at the club was coming to an end, which is a shame. You know, she did brilliant for us in the championship season. But look, it's just sometimes these things happen. Players don't fit in. You know, you have a fallout. Players don't hit the heights of what they have in previous games, and she's moved on. So, you know, I say good luck to her. You know, I still have a liking of Molly. I know she's divided a few United fans in recent months, but you know that. As I say, I do like her still. I wish her all the best at Birmingham. And she looked all right on Sunday. For a team that's a bit, you know, I think we can all agree Birmingham are still a bit of a mess. She seemed quite stable in midfield. You know, she was up to tackles, certainly. So we'll just have to see how it goes for her.
Yeah. Just before I come to you, John in the comments has said she didn't see the same player who played for us. And Villy asked very correctly, you pointed out, Molly got an assist for Katie's free kick, which we can't forget. No real surprise, really, John, for you?
No, I agree with what Jake said, and I also think that if she did stay with the team, then I don't think she would have got into the starting lineup again. So, you know, I think it was in her best interest to get some game time. She had a difficult game, obviously, on the weekend against us. I think, you know, any midfielder coming up against the 3 midfielders that we had, she's going to struggle. But, you know, she put in some good tackles, and she made everyone aware that she was there. And I think she'd done the best that she could do under the circumstances.
For me, Jake said it really well. She gave us some great memories from the championship season, and I know Shane's watching, and I know Nat's watching as well. And she gave me one of my best memories of that season, which was the goal against Arsenal away in the semi-final of I was going to call it the Carabao Cup, of the Conti Cup at Boreham Wood. It was a brilliant goal, and when she scored that goal, I think the people we were stood with in this United little away end at Boreham Wood, we could see us equalising, and Molly put some great. She was great in that game. I suppose we've got some time left, so let's have a talk about the news of last week of the 3 signings. We've kind of talked about Leslie Russo, but you're both in agreement she's going to be a star for us.
Well,
is she going to? Well, we hope so. Scoring goals. So here's a quick question. Next game against Brighton, I think people in the comments have said they can't see Tobin and Kristen starting. So do you start? I'm sorry, Jake. I'm apologising now. Do you start Leslie over Jane, or do you start them both together and go for a 4-4-2? I'm just asking the question.
Ooh. I'm going to let John answer just because I need some thinking time over this.
Because you can't contemplate Jane not starting. That's what it is as well.
I don't want to overcomplicate it. I think our formation works okay. I think it's great now that we've actually got competition for places. No matter who Casey chooses, should be able to perform and get a winning goal or whatever. So yeah, I would probably start Russo. But don't forget, we have got a Conti Cup game coming up as well, haven't we? So I think the game after Brighton is I think the Conti game. So that could be a game where maybe these new starters can play and get some game time. I don't know who I'm against just yet. I don't think that's been released as it, but no. So I think maybe we'll see Preston Heath maybe make their debut maybe in the Conti game, maybe.
Jake,
I think everyone who watches these podcasts knows that I'm very, very much a fan of the 4-4-2 formation. But the way it's been going lately and how Alessia is in terms of physicality and desire to cover such a big area, I'd be happy starting her on her own. I want to see Jess come in at some point, obviously with recent events, so we're not sure when she's going to be coming back. Again, we've got so many attacking options, but one thing I will say is a prediction. I think one of Tobin or Kristen will start against Brighton. Only one of them, but just a prediction.
Some of the comments that are coming in. John Fry says, looking good, just needs a first goal. Deborah said, Russo to start. John said, only Russo. And so it looks like people want Leslie to start. As a Man United fans, the fact that the club have signed for this season, Tobin Heath, Kristen Press, are you still in dreamland a bit about it, John?
It was us three that was on the podcast when the original tweet came out a few weeks ago.
I've been waiting for more breaking news tonight, but it's not happening.
I was waiting for some sort of. I was waiting for
Jake's shock face, but we're not going to get it tonight.
I think it's just great for the WSL, just like Man United to one side. You see how big, how strong the WSL looks this season, and I think it's great for the better English football is. Then obviously the bigger the fans get, and then obviously that's got a knock-on effect to Man United as well. So for me, I think it's absolutely brilliant to see all these stars come over. It doesn't matter what team that they play for; it's creating interest, and that's exactly what I think we need.
Jake.
Yeah, it's I'm still, I should say, sort of still in dreamland over these signings, but I've got to say that moment when obviously the news was dropped in, and I was in shock. I was like, oh, okay. I was trying to keep it cool, but that was one of my favourite moments on the podcast, just because it was breaking news. You got a live reaction off me, and we were all saying it. Tobin and Kristen are gonna transform this team, albeit only for one season, but you got all this talent over from America, which is probably the only good thing about this situation. The fact that the WSL, not just United, the whole league is going to the next level now. And I'm happy that we did sign both of them so that we're sort of moving with the other teams. So obviously City have signed two Americans. Obviously got Alex Morgan over to Spurs. We are now, I still think we're better than Spurs. I think, having those two for the full season is massive. So they're not going to just leave halfway through and we're going to drop off. No, I'm expecting big things from them both this season because they are a class above the rest of the players in the squad. They are incredible. No way.
Deborah put in the comments, Dreamland now just need to see the reality. It's a shame by the looking of it, we won't be at the Brighton game. Obviously, Matt Grayson is still in a local lockdown situation. But when we do get back into games, I can't wait to see. Or actually, I don't care. I don't care who I see, to be honest. I just want to get back to. We all want to get back to games, and I think it's part of the thing that we've done as a group is putting, making sure that we're all kind of together to do the watch-alongs and the social Sundays, and we have a laugh. I think it's going to be a bit longer. Is ultimately where I think we're going to be before we get back to games. So I just want to thank John and Jake again for coming on tonight. I'm sure they'll be back on soon, talking about something, hopefully games. If not, we'll have to do an international review. So Jake, you can host that one.
Oh, I love it.
So thanks for everyone watching. Thanks for all your comments. Take care, guys, and we'll see. Someone will be back next week talking about something in the women's game, hopefully. Take care. See you all. Bye.